Hi everyone, my name is Phil Saville from CIS and we provide IT support and cybersecurity solutions for small to medium-sized businesses. Thank you for joining us today, and we hope that our weekly 10-minute presentations and Q&A sessions are really helpful during these unusual times. Today's talk is on what is the best broadband available for business use in your home. And today I'm joined by Neil Lawson-Smith, the MD of CIS, who will be answering any questions raised during the live session. And Erin will be asking us the questions raised by yourselves. So give us a wave, everyone. Brilliant. Please submit any questions below in the comments or contact us via our Facebook page afterwards. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen, so bear with me. Brilliant. Okay. 1 second. Here we go. So, with more people expected to continue working from home after COVID-19 and businesses reviewing the need for the large office space, we wanted to share with you today what is the best broadband available for business use in your home. Our aim today is to help you understand the internet into your home more, from the route it travels, what you can do to maximize speed, and the options available to help you work more efficiently and securely whilst at home. And of course, without the stress of a slow internet. Most people just accept that their home broadband is as good as it's going to get. And these experiences become the norm. When you're working and trying to meet deadlines, you may have noticed some of these issues more. So hopefully you'd recognize, or you don't recognize some of these, shall I say. So during video calls, does the sound drop out when others are talking, or yours or other videos freezes? Maybe when making a VoIP call, does the phone call cut out completely every now and then? And when using your mobile and Wi-Fi, does that break up? Or you're waiting for an important email, but your inbox just doesn't always update. And when you're sending an email, sometimes it gets stuck in your outbox folder because the internet's gone. Or maybe web pages are just taking longer than normal to open, or web applications are just crashing due to a delayed or broken connection. Even accessing the office server from home can be painful just to do the simplest tasks, or just everything seems to take forever and you keep getting the Windows loading icon, or as I call it, the blue wheel of death. So most home users are using what's called a home fiber broadband line, and this is known as an FTTC, fiber to the cabinet. You may have noticed these green exchange cabinets at the end of your road, similar to the one in the picture shown here. Fiber optic lines run to these green cabinets, and then the internet then travels along the phone line to your house. The further away your house is from the green cabinets, this can reduce the internet speed you can achieve. So broadband is measured by Mbps, megabytes per second. Without getting too technical, this is the size of data traveling per second. Downloading is used more, where you're pulling data, for example, every time you visit a website, for that to display on your PC, data has to travel down your computer so it can upload. And an upload example is when you send an email or save a file to a web application. And of course, video calls are uploading your image and obviously downloading the other person or other people's images too. So there's upload and downloads being used there. Now, a business FTTC normally comes with two options, where you get 40 megabytes download and 10 megabytes upload speed, or you can have 80 megabytes per second download speed and 20 megabytes per second upload speed. And of course, some new houses have what's called FTTP, fiber to the premises. So this is where the fiber optic line that obviously ran from the green box to your house. So it's normally, it would be the phone line. This is an actual line where it's a fiber optic line from the green box straight to your house, and therefore a faster broadband is available. And if you do have an FTTP line and they're gradually coming through new builds, we highly recommend purchasing a small business router just to manage the throughput and maximize the performance. And of course, a key thing to remember is that your team is now maybe connecting to the office from home and accessing files and applications stored on your company server in the office from their individual houses. And that could be having an impact on the office broadband. As the home users are downloading, therefore the office broadband main use is being uploaded. And this obviously can be heavily used. So you may wish to consider what's called a lease line, where you can have whatever speed you need and the download and upload speed are the same, and therefore reduce that. So what is the difference between home broadband service and a business broadband service? So here's a small table. Now, contention ratios. Let me explain what this is. As I mentioned before, the internet travels to the green cabinet via a fiber optic cable. Now, with a home broadband, that fiber optic line is shared with 49 other houses near that green exchange cabinet. So if all 49 houses and yourselves are using the internet heavily, you won't achieve the home broadband speed that's expected. And in fact, home broadband providers have a minimum speed that they must achieve, but that's in small print. So they can still charge you the same. Business broadband works exactly the same, but it's shared with only 19 other business line users. And let's be fair, how many business lines are there from your nearest green exchange cabinet to you? Probably not that many. And of course, service levels are different. Home broadband related issues can take up to at least 5 days, where business is next day. And of course, with CIS, you have us there as a contact to help resolve and update you more effectively. Where possible, we would select a different provider to your current home broadband. So if one is down, the other is still up and running. Security options. With a standard home broadband, you normally get a free router. It's like free antivirus. It's okay, but I wouldn't bet my business on it, and I wouldn't recommend you do the same. So if you're using an additional business broadband line, we would recommend investing in a small business router. So it's got firewall and settings to manage ports, web filtering, etc., flow through for your VoIP calls or your VPN connections. And by adding a static IP address, this will also improve security and connectivity. So what tips can I give you as well? So the best thing you can do is obviously add a business broadband line, and this will run alongside your home broadband and just keep home users separate from your business use. Be aware that obviously game consoles, they schedule for updates of FIFA or downloading games, ideally at non-peak times. And of course, if multiple people are in your household are gamers, then you will definitely benefit hugely from a second business line. Also, limit the Wi-Fi connections by connecting devices with cables where possible. And of course, you can buy what they're called good home plugs or power plugs, and these plug into your electric sockets and transport the internet over the electric cables. So you've got no messy wiring of data cables that's needed. A free router with home broadband acceptable, but like I said before, for home use, great. But if you want to add security and maximize performance, it's worth investing in a small business. So very, very briefly, hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for your time, and I hope you found it useful. I'll remove my presentation, and Erin, if you could let us know if there are any questions, and we can go from there. Brilliant. There we go. Cool. Okay. Sorry. Stop share. There we are. Sorry. Thought I clicked it. That's live Facebook for you.
Great. Thanks so much, Phil, for your presentation, and really relevant, obviously, at the moment. And one thing I thought we should just mention before carrying on is our current business broadband offer. Do you want to say a bit more about that?
Yeah, I can do. Yeah, so for the month of May, that we're offering free installation, which is normally about £120. So any business line broadband orders for the month of May will get free installation.
Great. So we do have some questions that we've had come in. So we've got 5 questions. Neil, I'm going to start with you. So the question is, how long does it take to get a broadband fixed if it goes wrong?
Well, this is very relevant. A lot of people don't realise that actually home broadbands, the typical ones you get from your Skies and your Talks, they're actually, it's 5 days before they are required to even start looking at it. So that's not fix it, that is literally to begin to get on the case. And there is no comeback on that. So you can be offline for an entire week without your home broadband, and there's not a lot you can do. With British Broadband, one of the benefits is that can be a whole lot quicker, and as standard you're getting 24 or 48 hours response, which means that you can be out still a day or two, but you can get bypassed with mobile Wi-Fi temporarily if you're in that situation. But at least you know that there's some progress going. Even better, that if you have the ability to have a leased line, if you've got a particularly large amount of data that you want to manipulate, or maybe you've got a server at home, the leased lines are normally within hours, and that's something that, depending on the circumstances, is well worth considering.
Great. And the next question to go to Phil is, why does my internet link go slow and never as advertised?
A great question, and obviously before I got into IT was definitely a question I would ask on a regular basis. So the speed does depend on a lot of separate parts, but the main factor is that it's a distance from your house to that public green exchange cabinet, normally at the end of the road, that links you to the internet. So the further away you are from that, the slower service that you will get. And of course, you'll find is a lot of these broadband, they offer super fast broadband, but in small print, it's always speeds up to as such. And in reality is you potentially could get much slower. With broadband, a business line through us, we can tell you, from the exact number of your address to exactly what roughly speed you are going to get within at least 10%, if not nearer. So, and we can also find out exactly where your nearest exchange cabinet is and how far that is, so understand more about it. So yeah, that's the main sort of reason why.
Sure. And kind of following on from that, Neil, how can I speed up my internet link?
So there's several things to think about with your internet links. It's made up of several components. As Phil has said, there's obviously the line, which goes from the cabinet to your house. Then there's the router, the box of tricks that the outside line plugs into and gets you the signal inside your house. And then finally, there's the link between the router and whatever device that you've got there that you want to use. So when you kind of consider all of those 3 items, I mean, Phil's covered there about the line and what is the maximum possible you can get, and there are a number of different technologies that are available, so it's always worth speaking to a professional IT advisor who can assess which options are available, looking at what you're trying to do and make sure that is the right sort of technology for you. The router is the equipment that protects you from the outside world, and if that's slow or really not geared up for what you're trying to do. So if you had a really fast line but a really slow router, that's going to act a bit like a squeezing as a bottleneck trying to get through things. So I would definitely say look at the router. That is one of the things we look to get the best performance out of the line. And finally, you then have to look at how do you get from the router to your computer or your iPad or whatever device you've got at home. So a lot of people use Wi-Fi, for example, because it's very convenient. But if you've got an awful lot of demand through Wi-Fi, well, that can be a congestion itself. So even though your router and your line may be working at full capacity, the actual bottleneck is within your own house. So that's why I feel said earlier about cables and why that's a good way to go wherever possible, using power line in houses. There's a number of techniques, but you can't just beat the good old Cat5 cable. That really does sort things out quite nicely. But again, it's looking at how all these three things interact with each other and looking at how that whole thing flows. And that's why any IT advisor worth their salt will kind of look at what you're trying to do, how you're going to use it, and work out how you're always going to be having that consistent and reliable way of working.
Great. And Phil, I suppose this is kind of quite similar to what Neil was just saying. The next question is, my broadband is really fast, but why is my Wi-Fi slow?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think sort of Neil covered most of it, but nowadays, obviously, people are using smart home features, obviously with doorbells and lightings and things like that, all going through the Alexas and the Googles. So it's actually trying to minimize how many devices are connecting on Wi-Fi, and where possible, obviously using the cable. So if the PC or the laptops are normally in a certain position, then definitely use what's called Cat5 cabling or Cat6 cabling to really enhance that and take it away from all the sort of bottleneck that Neil described, the Wi-Fi side of it, and try and split as much as you can.
Hey, Phil, I was just going to say about that also some people have just one Wi-Fi access point in their whole house. So it may be that they actually don't get a very good signal by the time they're in their dining room or they're upstairs. So sometimes having multiple aerials or access points within the house can help distribute the Wi-Fi signal a bit better. And I think also the other thing is why is Wi-Fi slow, is it depending on what people are doing. So a lot of people don't realize that sometimes you've got a Mac using iCloud backup and that they're doing backups behind the scenes. And so it's really important to have a little look at seeing what is going on, exactly how you're using that line. So the Wi-Fi may appear slow, but it may be you're actually hammering it and don't realize it behind the scenes. It's a good point about the smart devices. Erin, is there another question?
Great, and we've got one last question to go to you, Neil. Question. To protect myself from internet hacks.
I think Erin's broadband, wherever you are, might not be the best. Back again. Yeah, I think you need a business broadband, Erin.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I think you're in and out. That's a good example of Wi-Fi being in use. So look,
I need unstable.
Case in point. Well, if I heard right, Erin, that question was what steps are there to sort of help protect yourself from internet hackers. So there's a couple of things you could do. Obviously, we've mentioned about the router. The standard routers you get for the home broadband are pretty basic. They're provided free of charge, so you can't really have a great deal of expectation other than it's going to stop the basic attempts by hackers. So you're reasonably safe. There are, like in any part of the world, the ability to buy more sophisticated, smarter devices. So that would include perhaps web filtering. We call it content filtering, where you can say, look, I don't want to have certain type of websites which really have no place in my home. I just want to block all those out. And that's good for maybe child protection issues and that side of things. But also they can intelligently filter out malware and viruses in real time while they're coming through the firewall. So protecting yourself at the front door in the best way possible, particularly when the lines are so quick and things happen so quick. That's something that we would always say to people: buy a really good router, look at the options that those routers can do, and protect yourself as best you can. It doesn't get away, of course, that you still need to protect the devices that you're using. So you need to have excellent antivirus and malware protection. We call that endpoint protection. So protecting your endpoints, making sure that that is covered as well, and that we've got some fantastic technologies. If you want to speak to myself or Phil after this, we're happy to deal with any particular questions you have about endpoint protection. And we have other pages on our website about cybersecurity, which Erin will get the link posted on this for our cybersecurity webpage. And of course, it goes without saying that even with all the protection that you can put in place, it doesn't mean that you can't have a good backup. You must still think about backup. There's always a plan B, because these viruses, these malwares, they evolve very quickly and spread very quickly, and they really are accelerating and exploiting people at the moment. So please, if you are working from home, do consider what endpoint protection. Is it a free one? Is that really strong enough for you? Does it have the real smart features of the paid for versions? And do I have a competent backup solution? Questions we've got on from other webinars we've got going on, and other web pages. So take a look around. Again, more than happy to take any more questions that people want to ask.
Great, thank you. And while I've still got my internet connection, Phil,
Phil, you got something?
Just very quickly again, just obviously going on from what Neil said, is that we've got a great case study that recently where we provided a business broadband line to somebody that's now working from home, and again that will be on our website, so you can hear it from someone else about the advantages of and why they sort of went down that route. So that was just it. Thank you, Aaron.
All right. So while I have still got my internet, I will just thank everyone for watching, and when you watch the future as well. Obviously, what we've learned from this is I need some new broadband. But thank you, Phil and Neil, for doing your presentation, Phil, and both of you for answering the questions. Really informative again, and we look forward to doing another live video next week. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, Erin. Thanks, everyone.
Brilliant. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.